So, I don't know how to feel. I don't really know what to think about this, and I'm very cautious about this game. So 2 weeks ago, um, a new game was given a new trailer. It is called Master Detective Archives Rain Code. And it's a new game from Kodaka, the creator of Danganronpa. And I don't know how to feel, because people who might know me might know that I'm not exactly fond of those games. But I felt like Kodaka had a little bit of something going with Tokyo Games, which he created in part with Uchikoshi, creator of Zero Escape, which I adore, and they made World's End Club together, which was an alright game. It wasn't bad by any means, but I wouldn't say it was great. And so now, Kodaka is doing another one of his own games. We got the reveal trailer for this about 7 months ago or so, and it showed us a bit, but we didn't really get a full trailer until the Nintendo Direct earlier this month. And I've got some things to say about this, which we will get to. And for the time being, I want to comb through this trailer to try and just scrutinize it and look at every inch of it and just see what we can get out of it. So, yeah, let's begin. First shot here is the same one as from the initial reveal trailer. It shows the city. It's very neon. It's very nice. Already the art style looks good. It shows promise. It looks like a modern game, and that's good. It doesn't look ugly by any means, and I would say the colors are really the most interesting part of it. Second shot here. This is a new shot. Still of the city. It's, we have some green stuff. It's just more of the city, and we see some people walking around, lots of different signs and brands and things, which I hope we will be able to explore more of and learn more about, instead of them just being there as like a backdrop for the rest of the world. I hope we get something to flesh that out. And we also get the name of the city, which is the City of Perpetual Rain. And yeah, of course, all of the shots we see here are in Perpetual Rain, which is interesting to say the least. And of course, the game's name is Rain Code, so rain seems to be a very heavy theme here. I hope they do something interesting with this instead of just having it as a thing. I hope there's some reason why it's perpetually raining. Continuing on, we see some sort of outdoor museum with fossils of what look like Tyrannosaurus Rexes outside in the rain, which is just incredibly odd. I don't know why they're here, and it's an odd choice to make, because like the museum is right there in the background. Why not have them inside? Why are they out in the rain? Wouldn't their bones deteriorate over time? I don't get it. And then their eyes are like glowing. There's obviously some sort of lights in their eyes, but it's just so odd that they choose to put them outside in the rain. And I don't know what to say about this. It is cool that there's a museum, though. I do like seeing different aspects of the city and possibly history of it. We know that this now takes place here on Earth with dinosaurs being extinct. Instead of some alternate universe, I guess. And as someone walks by, we see he has some sort of high-tech drone umbrella, which is cool in its own right, and that's interesting. But what's more interesting about that is that, of course, we can see people in the background with standard umbrellas. And I can't help but wonder if there's some deeper meaning to this. If the high-tech umbrella means he's either some sort of rich, wealthy, powerful person, and there's some sort of societal class divide, that could be interesting. Or this high-tech umbrella is given out by some sort of organization or secret society or anything. I think that would be really cool. I wonder what the meaning of this is, because there's obviously some sort of choice made here to show there are two different types of umbrellas, and as we know, rain is a very important aspect of this game, so the umbrellas have to be incredibly important to the people and their culture or who they are. So I want to know more about that. But then we see the next shot, a very zoomed out shot of the city, and we see some detective, I think, on the left with, I think, a hood on and a trench coat, looks like, also smoking something or having a toothpick in his mouth. It's kind of hard to tell, but he looks interesting. I want to know more about him. I love characters like that, and I just hope that he's written well, which I can't always hope for with Kodaka, but we'll see. We'll certainly see. And then in the middle there, it's a little harder to make out. I didn't even notice it at first, but there is someone smaller on the bottom there wearing a hat, and it's cool that they're hiding that person. I want to know. I just want to know more about everything here. There's so much to wonder about. But then on the right, we do see who I assume is Shinigami in her ghost form. So Shinigami isn't always with the protagonist, which is also interesting. I want to know why that is and what that could possibly mean for Shinigami as a character. If she maybe has alternate intentions, or there's just something deeper going on, I really don't know. But Shinigami has potential to be a very, very interesting character. Possibly even one of the best in the game. The next thing I want to do is draw your attention to the big tower in the background, the one higher than all of the rest of them. And as the trailer goes on, it zooms in, and we get a better look at the logo on it. This logo is interesting because we are going to see it multiple times throughout this trailer. I'll point out when it comes up, but it's an interesting thing to keep in mind. Now, I want to know what this company is and what they're doing. They're obviously related somehow, but I don't know how. They could be the detective agency of some kind, but it almost seems too big and corporate for that. We could see all the pipes and wiring, like, not wiring, but all of the big buildings connecting to it. It's fascinating, and they seem to be, like, running the whole city. Maybe they caused the rain, or something of the sort, but I'm not really going to get into speculation here. I just want to break down what I see. Next thing we see, though, is a good look of a character here who seems to be very flamboyant and interesting. Almost like some sort of mafia boss type deal. He has a cigar in his mouth and many metal teeth, as well as a scar across his eye. And a very vibrant golden jacket, which is a very odd choice for clothing, but I can roll with it. And we see on his tie the snake icon there, which I don't know exactly what that's symbolizing. I don't know what that could mean. We don't really see it any other times, so I can't help but wonder who this person is. He looks very antagonistic, So I think we can make that deduction from this, but we can't get much more from that little shot. Then after that, we get a good look at the protagonist for the first time, except for the reveal trailer, and we see him discovering a body in a room. Now, I want to kind of go on a bit of a tangent here, because as we see this body, there's pink blood on it, which is, of course, a staple from Danganronpa. I'll put up another example of this body, which we see in the reveal trailer. There's a much better shot of it, but this is going to be already one of my main problems. I think that this game, while trying to be its own thing, is still trying to connect itself to Danganronpa and almost continue riding its high. But I don't think that's the right move to make. This is a stylistic choice that was made specifically for that series and that series only. I don't think it should be continued here, and I really am not a big fan of its usage here. I think this could be very compelling as a noir murder mystery if they just took it a bit more seriously with its art direction in terms of some things like the pink blood and then the character portraits and designs. So it's hard for me because it seems Kodaka can't really pull himself away from that and have other tones and themes in its art direction. We do see lots of different art direction with the colors and the city and everything like that, but again, it's this pink blood that's getting me. I really can't think of any good reason why it should be here, other than capitalizing on the success of Danganronpa. So I can't say I agree with this, and I can't say I love it, but it's something that I'm gonna have to put up with as we continue forward. And as we continue forward, we get more looks at the new detective characters who are going to be the supporting cast. I assume one of them is going to be some true mastermind villain type, but can't say who for now. Maybe it won't be. Maybe Kodaka can write more than one plot, hopefully. That would be great to see, and I am looking forward to getting to know each of these more. The first one here we see is very kind of dark and edgy with some interesting design choices here. The hat is cool, but I don't think the ears were necessary. It's just kind of odd to me that it's like that. Other than that, though, I think it's very neat, and I like the glasses and the hair, so I think this character could be fun. After that, we see a character that I hope doesn't have the archetype that I think it's going to have, which seems to be very common in things like Danganronpa, which is the brash, overbearing girl type. I'm thinking of Miyu from Danganronpa V3, and just characters like that. I hope it's not like that, but I can't hope for much. The character design at least isn't too over the top. I like the colors of the eyes, but there's some nice accents, and it's not as bad as it would normally be. So I can't judge yet because I don't know this character or any description of her, but going off looks, I don't have the highest hopes. Then after that we see a guy punching his fist, and he looks very cool, but what is up with that mask thing across his face? It reminds me of that one mask from Majora's Mask, I think the All Night mask. It's very odd, and it connects to his hat, it seems like, which just is such a weird character design to me. And we see some sort of scar vein type thing across his eye, which I also don't get. It doesn't really look like a scar, but it doesn't look like much of anything. It's hard to tell. And yeah, he just looks interesting. And then we see this guy, who he is older, of course, and not in a uniform. So my guess is that he's some sort of leader of the group, maybe, or maybe a suspect, something like that. And he also has a trench coat on. Interesting. And of course, the main thing that I see here is his eye patch with a prosthetic eye thing built in. And it's interesting. He's older, and I hope we have good older characters, because in things like Danganronpa and World's End Club, those are all teenagers and kids. We didn't really have adult characters. So it's really, really refreshing to see some more adult characters and characters that could just be more mature throughout their story, which I think is absolutely the way to go. And then after that shot, we see this little girl here drinking a sip of something, who has a bow. Her hair kind of reminds me of Chiaki from Danganronpa. I don't know why I get that vibe, but she looks sweet and I like her bow. And then she actually, in her hair, has an Usami pin, the character from Danganronpa 2. So I don't know if that's implying a connection between the games or it's just an Easter egg. My guess is that it's just an Easter egg. And it's neat. I like the little nod. But I also wanted to point out, as I said earlier, the logo in the background here. It's the same logo as on that building. And now I just want to know even more what this means. Because, again, like I said, I doubt it's a detective agency because of how big the building was and because of how corporate it seems. So I don't know what vibe to get there. I really don't know what to feel about that. And then we zoom out to the full room and we see all the characters together with the protagonist in the middle. The room is very narrow. It almost reminds me of a train car, although I doubt it is one. But it looks different than a normal room. I don't know why. And then we get a good look at our protagonist here, Yuma. And so I like Yuma's design. I think it's not too crazy or anything, but it has personality to it. And it's interesting. I don't think the lavender color looks the best with the navy uniform he has on, but other than that, he looks fine. His haircut could use a little work though. It looks a little rough. And I do like his eyes. I think his eyes are pretty. And after that, we get the full title, Master Detective Archives Rain Code, with the sea looking like a little ghost fire thing. And I like the logo. It looks very clean and represents kind of the high-tech feel that the game has. I'm not the biggest fan of the Master Detective Archives surname type thing. I think this game should have just been called Rain Code, or maybe even Code Rain. I think that would even sound cooler. I think Code Rain would be very interesting. But this is what we have. Master Detective Archives Rain Code. A little bit of a mouthful, but not the worst thing in the world. In the next shot here, we get another look at Yuma, who is looking at himself in a mirror, not knowing who he is. Oh, great. An amnesiac protagonist. Everyone's favorite. This is sarcasm, by the way. I think amnesia is an overused plot device. I'm tired of it. It's rarely used well, and I don't want to see it again. I think it takes away from characters so much, and I'm tired of it. I don't want another amnesiac character. But here we are. Here we are. Yuma could be interesting, though. There's potential here. There's potential. That's all I'm gonna say. We get a full look at the room he's in. Not much to say about. There's a lot of clutter. There's a little robot back there who looks very polite. I love him. And that's about it. So from there, we get another little shot of him walking and then meeting Shinigami, both in her ghost form and human form. And I want to go ahead and talk about the very obvious parallels from this game to The Somnium Files by Kotaro Uchikoshi. There's a lot. So we have an amnesiac detective working with a female, non-human side character who both has the little mascot form and human form. And it's in a very kind of sci-fi, futuristic type city, solving murders, and I can't help but notice the parallels here. And even when we get further in, we'll see that there are unrealistic recreations of crimes very similar to Sinks in The Somnium Files. So, I don't want to say Kodaka is kind of a little too much inspired by The Somnium Files, but he kind of is. So, it's like if he tried to copy Uchikoshi's homework and change some stuff, but ended up keeping a lot. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. We'll see how the game goes. I'm gonna give it a fair shot. I won't compare it too much. I just wanted to draw the little parallels right here. Next in this shot is behind Shinigami. We see a man in a gas mask with some sort of baton and helmet and gear. And I can't tell if he's good or bad because we don't know anything about him. Obviously, there's not a ton to get from him. So I'm personally thinking he's bad because of his red lightsaber looking thing and just the fact that we can't see his face or anything. But really what I wanted to point out here is the logo again in the background of this company. But here is where we can gather some more information. And I'm going to speculate here a bit what this company is and what they're trying to do. Because next to the logo on the side of the wall here, we see Amaterasu Express. And I am going to presume, I'm going to guess, that this company's name is Amaterasu. Now, Amaterasu, of course, is the sun goddess in Japanese culture. So, what I'm gathering from this, here's my prediction. This company is trying to bring an end to the city of perpetual rain and trying to get the sun to shine again. So their name is Amaterasu in resemblance to the sun. That's just my take, but I can't exactly say for certain what it all means. Of course, the main thing in this shot is Shinigami, which we do get a look at here. Her design is alright. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. And the narrator here says that Shinigami and Yuma made some sort of pact, which is why she's haunting him. I can't help but wonder what this pact is and why they made it, other than her just helping him. But I can't help but feel that there's something more there. So I guess we'll learn about that later. Next, though, we get another look at some characters who I believe are new here. And the first one seems to have a lot of blood splatterings on his coat, which is odd because, again, like I said earlier, blood is pink in this universe, like in Danganronpa, so it doesn't make sense that there would be a dark red spatter of blood on this jacket. The design on the sleeve looks intentional, but there does seem to be some sort of splatter on the side there. And his messy hair and jacket gives me Nagito energy, but I can't say for certain who this will be. There's also a design on his chest, it looks like, some sort of tattoo or something, with an eye. I don't know what that can mean for his character, or if it will be important, but it is worth noting. And then after that, we see both of these characters talking to Yuma, and one of them is now sitting on a chair. He looks a lot like Binato from the Hidden Bats ARG, if any of you know what that is. An ARG that ran for the Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative a while back, and I can't help but be reminded of him when I see this. And these two characters might be witnesses or something that Yuma is talking to, which is why they could be here. We can't really say for certain though. There's a lot of papers and images in the background of this shot, many of which do seem to be like very mystery oriented, with, you know, a pinboard and a map and all sorts of things lying around. It looks very much like a mystery. Next, we do actually get some gameplay of walking around the city, and here's where we get a look at Yuma's hat, which does seem to be the person who was in the middle looking at the city earlier. So I think we can somewhat safely say that was Yuma. There's some trees in cases on the side, which is interesting, and I don't know exactly how to feel about that, but it does contribute to the sci-fi-esque nature of this. And in the background, there's a large statue of someone towering over everyone. It looks like some kind of philosopher or god or something. It doesn't look modern, I should say. It could be part of the museum from earlier, but there's not really a way to know. And then we do see Yuma talking to someone, most likely about the murder that he found earlier. So it does seem we will be talking to witnesses and gathering more information from them. And then presumably inside, there's some more evidence that we're collecting, and once we have enough, I assume what will happen is that, as we see next, Shinigami will create some sort of portal to what is called the Mystery Labyrinth. Like I said earlier, very similar to Sinks in the Somnium Files, where they're very non-realistic recreations of crime scenes. As we see in the first one, they're very, I don't know if psychedelic is the right word, but very odd in nature. And the Mystery Labyrinth of this first one seems to be almost Egyptian or something related to that. There's a lot of skulls on the walls. There's some what look like hieroglyphs up at the top, candles and stones, and lots of stuff like that. So it could be related to the person from earlier with the snake tie, because that almost resembles this, but I still can't say for certain. And then next we see some sort of mini game being played where it asks us a question and we have to answer it about the crime. We have 3 options and a short amount of time to answer. So this is very similar to the Psyche Taxi in Danganronpa V3. It seems like. I hope it will be very different. I don't want it to just be a repeat of that, like I said earlier, but I can hope. But then next, we do see more gameplay of walking around 2 answers, which is also interesting because it's just different. And I can't tell if this is the same Mystery Labyrinth or a different one because the vibe looks very different. The lighting is more colorful and the text is blue, and I can't exactly tell what's what. It almost looks like Yuma's in some sort of giant recreation of something. He looks very small compared to everything else. And then after that, we see some sort of beach-themed Mystery Labyrinth, which I assume is a different one. and Shinigami is inside some sort of barrel that I assume she made because it is very similar to her color palette. Although in the background of this shot, there is some sort of statue type thing with its eyes glowing. I don't know how that will be important or if it will be at all, but I can't help but wonder about it. And then the camera spins around to Shinigami and then cuts to what looks like a boss fight against what I think is the guy from earlier, but I can't exactly make it out because his design is so incredibly different, with his tongue sticking out and crazy pink hair and colors and everything. But what makes me think this is really the upper layer of teeth being metal and just kind of the facial structure in general. And this is where we see more in-depth gameplay, where against this mystery phantom, as it's called, we dodge false statements that come out of him and cycle through our evidence that we have in the bottom left there to slash the contradictions. So this is very, very similar to the bullet time battles from Danganronpa. It's almost identical, just with swords instead of guns. And again, I just hope it's more different, because right now, this is just looking like Danganronpa mixed with the Somnium Files, but it does have its own identity, which I hope it will explore more. And then as the cutaway comes, we do see Yuma with a cool looking sword, which I do like. I think it's very, very neat, and I hope we get to see more of it and what it does. And then we see another shot of Shinigami and Yuma both slashing, and that's the end of the trailer for Master Detective Archives Rain Code. And then lastly, at the end of the trailer during the Direct, they said that it was launching first on Nintendo Switch, which is just a weird exclusivity thing for a limited time, I guess. I never really liked these, where it's exclusive to the Switch for a little bit, but then will go to other platforms. But we already know about that beforehand. It's just weird, and I'm not a big fan of that business practice. I don't really like to see it being used here, and that's really all I have to say about that. To recap, it looks interesting. It has potential. There's some really cool art direction designs here with the colors and lights and city, but at the same time, it does feel like they're holding on to Danganronpa and trying to milk it or just gain from it by using certain aspects like the characters and the blood and everything just looking like Danganronpa, also with the gameplay. And then just resembling the Somnium Files with a lot of its core themes. I hope it will be different. I really, really do. I want this to succeed and be a Kodaka game I can say that I really like, which don't really exist right now. I'm not that big of a fan of any of them. And we'll just have to see how it goes. So that's about it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.